puzzle completion function, which meant that the first puzzle had a big bang of events, while the other have the minor small puzzle completion events. It had been like this since I finished the level, so no one had never experienced the actual sequence of events meant to take place. This type of bugs are pretty nice to fix, because you only fix your own stupid mistake, and then all is done. This level consists of 3 parts of a puzzle. For each part you complete, you get one step closer to getting the machinery running. It does not matter which order you do it in, so you can complete the level as you like. I figured I add a little something about the commentary, why it is in the game and how we did it. As you probably have noticed by now, the quality of the recordings are a bit different. We tried our best, but as we do not have an office, everyone had to care for their own voice recording and make do with the equipment that they have. For me as a sound artist and for Mikko and Tapio, this was not really much of a problem. We all got our sound gear to rely on. But for the rest, they really had to work to make the best out of their chat microphones. They even got a checklist of things to do, such as put a sock on the microphone and what angle towards the microphone to speak at. The reason as to why we did the commentary to begin with was that when we were working on Amnesia, we started taking pre-orders of the game, and we put up a meter on the website saying that if we got 2,000 pre-orders, we would add a commentary to the game. I suppose you know the answer to the question if we met that goal or not.
Do you see, Daniel? It has yielded.
What?
The shadow.
It has?
For now. Come, let's get...
Alexander along with Daniel makes up the foundation for the entire story. Together they make the core conflict. There was a lot of background for this character as he is in a sense the villain, so I wanted to do everything that I could to make him likable and have people sympathize with him. It's just the best way to make a bad guy. If we can have the player feel for their opponent, they might start questioning their own actions. Alexander's story is quite interesting in its own right, but in the end it was important to have the story deal with the relationship between Daniel and Alexander. That's why there is so much about the last few weeks and so little about the history of Alexander. Because after all, since we're playing Daniel and he seemed to want to get back at Alexander, we the player want to know how bad it really was and decide for ourselves if we think he should be punished.
Some peace.
Yes, let's. Where to?
Just down the corridor, to the morgue.
Are there more dead men there?
You did well, Daniel. Come, let's get going. I hear you breathing, Daniel. Do you hear me? Have you changed your mind?
As with the cistern, this takes the player closer to Daniel's dark past. It was important here that the corpses did not have the normal gory shock value, but was more true to reality and disturbing. We really wanted to approach this stuff with respect and not just show it in an exploitative fashion. I hope that shows when you play the game. The flashback of the guy trapped is actually inspired by true events. During the bubonic plague outbreaks, people were buried so quickly that it was not always checked that they were probably dead. This meant that people sometimes woke up, finding themselves locked up, entombed, surrounded by corpses. Scratches on doors and walls of such rooms have been found, confirming that it did happen.
What? What happened? Why are all these dead? Where am I? What's happening? Help! Anybody! Help! 3 days now. This is ridiculous. Why doesn't someone come to this room? Hey! Anybody! Am I all alone? Here? Help! Help! I'm so tired. If I sleep, I'll wake from this nightmare. If not, I pray my Heavenly Father will take me in my sleep.
As with the cistern, this takes the player closer to Daniel's dark past. It was important here that the corpses did not have the normal gory shock value, but was more true to reality and disturbing. We really wanted to approach this stuff with respect and not just show it in an exploitative fashion. I hope that shows when you play the game. As with the cistern, this takes the player closer to Daniel's dark past. It was important here that the corpses did not have the normal gory shock value, but was more true to reality and disturbing. We really wanted to approach this stuff with respect and not just show it in an exploitative fashion. I hope that shows when you play the game.
Somehow, every adventurer finds himself in a sewer at some point in his life, and Daniel is no different. Usually these levels tend to be a bit dull, but this one turned out rather okay. Quite a step up from the last sewer level I did in Penumbra Requiem. It was supposed to be a blue tinted level, with a feeling of being cold and damp, but it stood out too much to really fit in with the other levels. We settled for a green tint on the brown dungeon set, as it worked nicely as a transition between the cistern's green stones and the brown torture nave level. Somehow, every adventurer finds himself in a sewer at some point in his life, and Daniel is no different. Usually these levels tend to be a bit dull, but this one turned out rather okay. Quite a step up from the last sewer level I did in Penumbra Requiem. It was supposed to be a blue tinted level, with a feeling of being cold and damp, but it stood out too much to really fit in with the other levels. We settled for a green tint on the brown dungeon set, as it worked nicely as a transition between the cistern's green
This
stone.
here was my first job at scripting assassin. I must say that I like working on scripts, but that's probably because I love anything that looks or feels like programming. Scripting puzzles does not involve just writing a plain script. You also get to edit entities, create particle systems, set up stuff like areas and entities in the level to support the script. It is actually a lot of fun, and it allows for quite a bit of creativity. This particular puzzle is about having to jam a can of water mill to be able to get through it. But it first needs to be slowed down somehow.
What's happening? What are you doing? Let me go! Please, don't take me! Nobody ever returns!
machinery that controls the mill rotation speed. There is not much to say about this part, just a couple levers that change some values when moved, and do stuff when the right value is set. As you might already know, playing around with the combination of both levers, you can notice a background sound changing. At the time of working on this, there was no proper sound available for this background sound, so I just picked some placeholders from what was in there already. I thought that creaky sound that is heard when the elevator falls down could do a nice one for the medium speed. How wrong I was. It was unbearable to say the least, so I just ended up removing all placeholders and leaving a to-do note in the script. Here was my first job at scripting a puzzle. I must say that I like working on scripts, but that's probably because I love anything that looks or feels like programming. Scripting puzzles does not involve just writing a plain script. You also get to edit entities, create particle systems, set up stuff like areas and entities in the level to support the script. This pipe you see here can be broken to be used later to join the mill. It is actually a model with two bodies joined by a hinge joint. To do this part of the puzzle, I first made it so you could break the joint at certain points when pulled, but this just felt really strange. So I just asked James how we were doing this kind of stuff in the game, and he told me to just add some area that counted hits in the script. So every time the pipe collided with this area, a certain variable was increased by 1. If you enable the debug window, you can see this area with activating the draw physics debug option. When this variable reached a given value, it triggers the breakage of the pipe, spawning the broken pipe item, and that's how it works.
When I was looking at the concept art of Brute Monster, I thought that it should sound like one long tone, which is coming from the tube. Because it doesn't have mouth, it should sound like hollow thing which can't make clear and complex vocalization. Firstly, I recorded lots of different kind of dogs and I edited them to play as one tone. I had lots of discussion with Jens and I think I got the right idea, but there was feeling that it was coming too close and it wasn't scary and blah blah blah. So it wasn't really scary. It was just big mess. I think I made something like 5 or 6 different versions, but problems didn't go away. Finally, I just removed the dog sounds and used my own voice. I made it with old metal sync, speaking through the tube and putting the microphone in front of the sync. And that way I got more control on the vocalization and tube kind of sound was natural because it was coming from actual tube. I think Brute's movements were the easiest ones for me. I knew from the beginning how I wanted it to sound. I wanted it to be very metallic since it has lots of metallic things in its body and it should be very heavy, scary guy. I was a little bit worried about how the high-pitched screeching would work, but it actually turned out great with the music, because the music is very low frequency and movement is high frequency, so there is nice spectre of sound. Together they make Brute even scarier.
Turn around this instant. You are carrying the shadow with you.
thing about me using the tools I am dedicated to develop is that I could get a close view on how they feel when working with them. And it's easier and quicker to get bugs fixed when working like this, as they usually get in the middle of the way and the only solution is just getting your hands dirty and fix them. This also works well for small features that don't take much time to add. I'm not sure which one I added from working on this level, but it usually starts like thinking, oh, being able to do this or that will be really nice, and ends up with the feature in the editor. Not everything works like this, you know. I actually have an endless list of stuff to add to the editors, but there is always so little time. They will come eventually, that's for sure, or maybe not.
9th of August 1839. I can't stop sweating and shaking. The warding ritual was not something of a sane mind. I did not even realize the dungeon was still in use. Alexander had his servants bring one of the prisoners, a murderer, he told me. Alexander made all the arrangements, but he said I had to perform the ritual in order to have the right effect. The shadow could be led astray by the blood of another. Killing the man would provide us precious time. What else could I do? Alexander said it had to be done. He is saving my life. I don't have the luxury of argument.
A good thing about me using the tools I am dedicated to develop is that I could get a close view on how they feel when working with them. And it's easier and quicker to get bugs fixed when working like this, as they usually get in the middle of the way and the only solution is just getting your hands dirty and fix them. This also works well for small features that don't take much time to add. I'm not sure which one I added from working on this level, but it usually starts like thinking, oh, being able to do this or that will be really nice, and ends up with the feature in the editor. Not everything works like this, you know. I actually have an endless list of stuff to add to the editors, but there is always so little time. They will come eventually, that's for sure, or maybe not.
Agrippa, I need you to stay awake. Can you feel the syringe?
No, I can't feel anything. Alexander?
Yes?
Soon, I won't even be able to move, will I?
Your life is safe.
I don't doubt that. But will it be worth living? Thank you. You have my gratitude. My name is Agrippa. Who might you be? Daniel? Like the prophet thrown into the lion's den? Tell me, are you among the lions, Daniel? You want to stop Alexander? Oh my, so Babylon shall fall, you say. You worry too much. Alexander is toothless without an arm. Yes, that's not very promising at all. The sanctum is basically impenetrable, but guess why not? It could be breached by another, but Alexander broke my arm, a long time ago. Really? Well, if you tell the truth, by all means, seek out the pieces of the broken arm and mend away. I believe he uses them for torture now. They practically leak madness, which is quite useful, I understand. There should be 6 of them. Look around the choir and the transept. You should be able to find them there.
The Agrippa Awaken sequence is inspired by the movie Seven, when they find the sloth victim. I thought that scene was really disturbing, so it stuck to me. When writing the design of the Agrippa event, it came to mind instantly. A fun thing about Agrippa is that it was first supposed to be a severed head that was placed at several locations in the game. It then later turned into the guy that is in the game now. If you wonder why he does not have a lower jaw, then that's because we did not have the resources for voice sync. It was then worked into the story though, as Alexander does not want him talking when he shouldn't.
Would you consider taking me with you? I know it sounds ridiculous. I mean, look at me. But if you find anything concerning a man named Johann Reich, would you please bring it to me? I believe he was working on a way to heaven. A recipe for some sort of potion, a tonic, to free me from this husk of mine.
I told Thomas that I wanted a character that the player could look at, or at least know that someone was talking to him right now, as in no flashbacks, no ghosts, or memories. Just something solid the player could depend on being real. However, a character is really expensive stuff. You need a voice, a model, textures, animations, behavior. So we finally came up with this idea about a stationary character so we could cut down on animations and behavior. At this time, Agrippa was just a character, a real historical character actually, I had used as the writer for a letter found in the first stages of the game. But we upgraded him, and made him a part of the plot. The reason I find him so valuable is that he joined the ranks of Daniel and Alexander, making this so much more complex and intriguing. And of course, it also quite naturally led to the split ending thing.
Back on the level editing was an interesting experience to say the least. I started with the room with the door leading to level 22 and made my way up from there. I managed to build a reasonable base in a bit over a week's time. It took a bit long, having into account that not all models needed for the level were available at the time I started working on it, and that, blaming my inexperience in level building, I had to remake some parts a lot of times, like the room I started with. It was Marcus who took the level from where I left it, and I must say he did an awesome job. I'm not sure how much of my original work still stands in there, but the final version looks really sweet. I didn't get more level creation assignments after this one, possibly because I am actually more productive in other kinds of tasks, but I'm happy I had the chance to try.
I know this. I've been here already. I know this taste. The taste of Damascus rose obfuscating the truth in an pain. They may sweep the traces from my memory, but my body remembers. These cuts speak volumes, even though my mind remains silent. They will be back. They will be back.
this level, it is easily done to not see the whole level. If you have all the ore pieces when coming here, you will get captured at the start and will not get a chance to see the rest of the level. There is a whole area to the east consisting of 2 very detailed rooms, so if you end up being captured on your first visit, make sure to come visit again.
Just a little further.
It's like Orpheus descending into the underworld.
Are you hiding something?
What do you mean?
Never mind. Your intuition is remarkable.
I'm not sure I'm following.
It doesn't matter. It's just a myth after all.
The torture chancel was an interesting level. It made a clear break from all the claustrophobic tunnels that make up the majority of our levels. It also presented a challenge since we had to fill that space with interesting pieces and still be able to run it on older computers. The idea of the level is to give the player a sense of what is to come, and to give them a feeling that maybe all this was here, even before Alexander built his castle. As a contrast to the mystic shrines, we have an electric barrier in the back of the level. The idea and design of this bit is an homage to the movie Event Horizon.
12th of August, 1839. The banishment ritual is taking longer than expected, and we have to do what is needed. I spend my time helping out the prisoners. Being around these degenerates makes me ill. None of them even tries to face their punishment with any kind of dignity. They taunt me with their lies of innocence and their cowardly pleas of mercy. What can make a man fall so far from the grace of a civilized existence? They are all wicked men, and I remind myself of it constantly. Still, I am thankful for God sending these monsters our way, as they will serve as the instruments of my salvation. I try to study the different tools in the torture chamber and learn how to use them effectively. Last time was messy, and the effect suffered from my inexperience. When the next warding is to be performed, I shall be ready.
chancel was an interesting level. It made a clear break from all the claustrophobic tunnels that make up the majority of our levels. It also presented a challenge since we had to fill that space with interesting pieces and still be able to run it on older computers. The idea of the level is to give the player a sense of what is to come, and to give them a feeling that maybe all this was here, even before Alexander built his castle. As a contrast to the mystic shrines, we have an electric barrier in the back of the level. The idea and design of this bit is an homage to the movie Event Horizon.
Is this ill-timed witnessing, Daniel? If so, blame yourself. You started this. You sent me that letter asking for help, and this is how you repay me? How dare you! These cells are meant to hold prisoners who are under treatment. The people you send for will end up here. Remember that the confinement itself works as a preamble to the torture, and you should pace yourself. Don't take anyone before they are ready.
Understood.
Sounds from the torture chambers are shuttled in through those pipes in the ceiling. Manage your victims well, and let one prisoner's pain...
How are things coming? What level? Oh, that level. So many of Alexander's things are breaking down. Look around. Maybe the other room. There are machine parts hidden all over this place. You'll find a way to fix it. Who, me? I'm Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. I'm this one.
After almost 2 years of continuous development of the editors, this was my very baptism of fire in level creation. My first big level edited ever, that is. Making the base for this level was my assignment for week 8 this year, and I must confess I was pretty excited about it all. You know, not ever having used the editors in a real life run, I was wondering how well I was going to do.
Daniel, good to see you. Alexander is quite impressive in many ways, but he has grown impatient. Why me? I'm the next best thing. Alexander really wanted none other than Johann Reyer. You never heard of Johann Reyer? My God, boy. He's probably the greatest man in history. And you don't know him? Or is it the world who has spoken?
kill her?
Daniel, good to see you. I was my pupil. My pupil. Yes, I do take pride in that. Is it so wrong? I found a reason I have which had not been plundered. Do you know what this is? I suppose it doesn't matter. It is an old thing.
Daniel, you have gone too far. I have to stop you. I can't let you proceed any further. I'm sorry, my friend.
Daniel, good to see you. You got the doors open? Good going. I knew you could do it.
The staircase is inspired by The Haunting, the black and white version. I really love spiral staircases, and I find there's something ominous about them. Also worth noting is that torture devices in the level are all real, and that things similar to those depicted had happened in real life. Even in present days. For example, strappado is still a common torture method. As discussed in another commentary spot, we tried to take the subject seriously and stay away from just divulging in gore and stuff.
How much more, Baron? How much more am I supposed to withstand? Kill me, Orphan! Kill me!
This one. Prepare him.
It's kind of fun, or perhaps I should say disturbing, that the methods Alexandra describes in Note could almost be used to describe how we do horror. I will let you draw your own conclusions from that.
What happened to her? Is he all right?
He is one of the wicked. Don't pay his lies any attention.
I'm not a bad man. What an accident.
He set a man on fire.
It wasn't my fault. Why won't anyone listen?
That's horrible.
Of course. We are dealing with monsters here.
Please, do anything. Whatever you want. Anything. Do anything. I've been